construction business. Thank you. My name is Manny Rivas. I'm with M&MConstruction Group. We actually have been around for 20 years under our license, but I was in business before that with, I was running a company. Actually, I started there. When we think about construction, we think mostly about tile work, kitchen remodels, bathrooms, your plumber under your sink, depending on what kind of experience you've had with it. That's basically what I do. I do a lot of that, but one of the things that I really love to do, and it's in my bones, it's actually structural work, and with that is seismic retrofitting. Seismic retrofitting has been around for a long time. We're in earthquake country, so we have a lot of movement here, we have a lot of brick buildings. The reason why I wanted to touch that point today was because it gets really unnoticed in my business. As a matter of fact, when I got introduced to the group, I think I came in as a roofer. And then, quickly we turned that around and I wanted to clear that out as a general contractor. I like to think myself more of a PPS, which is a professional problem solver. Because I'm really involved in the construction. I have pretty much done everything that there is to be done in the construction industry. I started when I was 16 and a half years old. My dad took me in to his job site. He was working on a seismic retrofitting project. He somehow talked his boss into letting me work there for the summer. Don't know how that conversation went, but that was my start in the seismic retrofitting world. And I remember my dad was a carpenter and a finished carpenter, so he went to another job and he dropped me off at 5:30 in the morning on this one warehouse, and they threw me into a 6-foot hole to excavate a foundation, which quickly turned into a 10-foot hole, not by my help because I was taking bricks. But it was scary being under there. But I started realizing that I loved it. I loved the people working on it. I loved what they were doing with the buildings. I loved looking at all the old trusses. Even at 16 and a half years old, I just loved it. So one of the things that I focus is structural work. I'm pretty much known with the structural community for my seismic retrofitting capabilities. There aren't that many companies doing it now, but there aren't too many buildings. Division 88 started in 81, that's the retrofitting of brick buildings. Now we have a lot of brick buildings here in Pasadena and throughout California. I've done a lot of work here in Pasadena, not only doing the seismic retrofitting part of it, but doing repairs after. That's one of the things you gotta remember. Seismic retrofitting is not earthquake proof. It's actually a way of you doing the minimum required by the city or the state to make it safe for people to work in those buildings. You're still going to sustain damages, but hopefully the damages will be so low that people will still walk out alive in those buildings, and that's why it's so important. Up to date, according to the last census, 98% of all the brick buildings were completed in the mid-90s to late 90s, but there's still some abandoned buildings out there and some that fell through the cracks. So why do I bring out seismic 88? Only because it's part of my work, maintaining those buildings. Recently, I was called out to do assessment on a building, the Arcade Lane building, which is where your offices are, and to assess cracks around the building. So I went out there, I ID'd some of the ones that I thought that were dangerous. I called in the engineer, and we quickly put in a plan to take care of those cracks for the client. They're not dangerous where the building's gonna fall, but they are at a point where they need attention. So those are the kind of things that basically keep me rolling in this industry. So any buildings that are brick building, concrete buildings, those are the buildings or clients that I'm looking for. This building in particular, this Dashboard building, I think you're familiar with it, Cheesecake Factory. Excuse the presentation, by the way, I went old school on you. But I figure you can pass this along too. This is the back of the Dashboard building. The building was actually retrofitted by the company that I used to work with in the early 80s. But then we had the earthquake of 94, the Northwest earthquake, and created a lot of damages. Now, it dropped about 10% of the brick wall in the back, but it was safely dropped and it kept the whole building together. So, and this is the smaller building, the annex building. So it's not the big 3-story, 4-story building. This is the one next to it. No one died, thankfully. No one got hurt, thankfully. Even though people apparently were running through the back, coming out but the building held up. We went in there in '95 and did a complete rebuild. We tore down the entire back wall of the building, supporting the roof, and rebuilt it with concrete, adding the original brick to the outside as a veneer, so it will keep the existing, or the old historical presence of it, which is what a lot of owners want, because they want to keep that value. So that Division 88 is pretty much done, but one of the things that we keep doing is retrofitting them, adding structural strength to them, and maintaining them. With that comes brick repairs, stone repairs. Here in Pasadena, a lot of the offices, they love that brick look, right? They go in and they take down all that plaster because they want to look at the brick. Please don't do that. You have no idea how many times I've gone in there to do repairs because they hire someone just to chip out or sandblast the plaster out. With brick, when the way the brick is done, it's baked. And with the baking process, it creates a patina, a finish to it. You tear out that patina, especially on a 100-year-old brick, and it starts collapsing, it starts tearing apart. So soon enough, you start getting calls of the tenants complaining because there's a lot of dust on their desks, and they don't know where it's coming from. It's coming from the grout on the building that they just exposed. So we have to go in there and do a restoration process on it with sealers, grout repointing, and sometimes it requires epoxies in order to make it strong enough, again. And in most cases, when it damages too much, best thing to do, replaster it, because it seals it again. Now, when you use sealers on the plaster and you use sealers on the brick, you have to use a special sealer. A sealer that is going to allow, we gotta remember that the brick walls are exposed on the outside most of the time, so they will pick up all the moisture from the exterior, including in the raining time, and it will save it in that wall for a long time. In order for that moisture to leave and not deteriorate your grout, you have to use a special sealer. A sealer that's going to allow the grout to breathe. So it has to be a sealer that is not oil-based. It has to be something that is going to keep it together, yet allow it to breathe out all that moisture. So it's a process, and applying it is also a process. Have you ever built a brick wall? The way that you build it is you don't just use the brick and put it on mortar, because it will suck up all the moisture from the mortar, and it will make the mortar weak, and it will not stick to the brick. The way you do it is you get the brick wet, and then you put it on the mortar, because then it's already wet, it will naturally dry and adhere to the brick. Same thing with the sealer. You have to moist the brick, you have to moist the mortar, and then apply the sealer. So, or else it's just gonna suck it in, and it will take it to the middle and leave the edges uncovered. So there's a process to it. So that's the kind of stuff that we do. Restoration also comes with that. That came in at a later date for us, but we have two more divisions. Seismic retrofitting comes in three divisions right now. One is Division 88, which is pretty much done, but we still have work out there for repairs. And then you have the ductile concrete buildings, and ductile what means is pretty much brittle buildings. Concrete, sometimes it's too brittle. So we go out there and we retrofit them, because a lot of the times you have concrete walls, you think you're safe, but your entire framing is weak. So you have to attach that to the building somehow. So that's ductile. And I'm going out, the reason I'm leaving early today, I'm going out to see a 106-year-old church built out of concrete. I did the initial inspection on it about 4 months ago and found out that it wasn't just concrete. Part of it is brick. So now you have two divisions going against each other, and this one fell through the cracks. Now you have Division 88 and the ductile division trying to compete and see what gets done first. So anyway, I'm putting a team together. I've been hired as a consultant for that church so that I can put a team together to retrofit the church and get it done. First step is to get the engineer in there. It took 4 months to get that approved through red tape of the church. But now it's finally there, and we're meeting today, and he's finally going to do his evaluation. So I'm very looking forward to that. So that's concrete buildings. And the latest, which is self-construction, and that's apartment buildings with 3 units or more on top of parking structures. That's the latest thing. I'm very unhappy with that division because there's so much competition out there, and they're not doing them right, including the engineers. I have had nothing but complaints from the inspectors inspecting the jobs. And they're saying this is horrible. The work that is being done is just very minimum and very shady work. So I don't even want to compete on that because there's no money in it. There's the headaches behind it, dealing with all the tenants of the buildings and the owners. It's just a real headache. I only done a few of them, and I have 3 plans on my desk for them right now, and I don't think I'm gonna bid them because I've seen the competition is just horrible. So I'm very upset with that division because they should pay a little bit more attention to it, but I think it was rushed in too fast. Major Garcetti just wanted to get it done, so it just got signed and no one's overlooking it the way that they should. They only have 2 inspectors for the entire LA area doing them, or maybe now 3. But anyway, that's what I deal with. And finally, is restoration. I love restoration. I told you I started when I was 16 and a half years old. Well, I knew I wasn't gonna be just a laborer all my life, so I wanted to do more. So by the time I turned 21, I started the company on a new adventure, that was restoration. That was the first Victorian house in Azusa. It's called a Painted Lady. It's an interesting story behind this house. When the area was being developed, the developer wanted to buy the house, and the owner said, no, we're not gonna sell the house. So the developer decided to put that street behind the house to force it to sell. So the main patio of the house sits in the back, and the back of the house sits in the front. And it sat that way for the longest time until I got to it. And we were able to restore the patios with wood and they had all kinds of rosettes on the roof, little flowers. Luckily, I had a really good carpenter who was able to duplicate that. In today's dollars, it would be just crazy to do it. But back then when I was 21, it was so much fun. My boss thought I was crazy. He says, if you mess this up, you're gone. And I said, no worries. If I mess this up, then I'll get another job. But I wanted this so bad. And I was able to get it done. And what we did is we restored the entire patio and we duplicated part of that patio in the back so that the house will look a little decent in the back, meaning the front. So that's my work. I don't want to take too much of your time, but that's pretty much what I love to do. Restoration, we do a lot of restoration here in Pasadena as well. There are some sandstone buildings that we go out there and we maintain, we add sealer to them, we basically patch up little areas of them. If you want to take a look at this, please feel welcome to it. You see, this is the 20 North Raymond building, and if you look at it now, before it was missing some pieces of stone, limestone that have fallen apart. So we go out there and we just put them back together using the correct color, the correct silicas, and the correct adhesives so that it stays there. It doesn't mean that it's not going to crack again, because once it cracks, what happens is that, especially in concrete, you have rebar. When water gets in there, it sucks up the rebar, even steel sucks up the moisture, and then it expands, and then it cracks the concrete. So that's why you get all those falling pieces now. So look around when you're in Old Town Pasadena, and you start seeing a lot of the stuff that you didn't see before. Pieces of Forbos missing, pieces of limestone missing, pieces of brick missing, and you start wondering, why aren't these getting done? A lot of times they don't have the money, a lot of times they don't want to spend the money. That's it. And that's my presentation to you guys. Any
Would
questions?
you mind passing your things around so that we can also?
Yeah, that's why I brought this one, so that way you guys can take a look at them. That's restoration, that's a seismic retrofitting. This is restoration, 20 North Raymond. And that's the same building.
Pass it over there.
Yes, sir.
I just heard a presentation from the Pasadena Historical Society.
Mhm.
It seems like they surprisingly have a lot of input and say over construction in Pasadena.
Mm-hmm.
Is it difficult working with them or getting permits or getting approval to do stuff like that?
It's difficult, but I wouldn't say it's difficult. I think it's challenging. You have to go through historical heritage to get approval on colors, to get approval on procedures sometimes. Anything that's visible, they want to be involved with. And anything that's visible, you cannot change. You have to match what's there.